So, just before I start today's sermon, can I welcome those who are watching online? Thank you for joining us. The Church on the Brow is a small local church based in Oldfield Brow on the outskirts of Altrincham and is full of wonderful people, all of whom love Jesus. If you enjoy what you hear, can I encourage you to come along and join us one evening? We meet every Sunday at 6 o'clock, and you have my assurance that if you do come along, you will be made extremely welcome. Okay. Well, tonight's message is titled Running the Race of Your Life. Just for fun, before I go into the sermon itself, I was thinking about the races I'd run in my life. And I was thinking about when, as a child, remember school sports day? And I'll never forget the egg and spoon race because I was always very conscientious about my egg and spoon. You know, I'd hold the spoon and I'd wobble in these eggs, and they never stayed on, did they really? And then there'd be some kid with a snotty nose next to you, put his thumb on the egg, wouldn't he, and belt down there and win. And of course, there was no time to challenge it, because they said on to the next race, like that. So I don't think I ever won an egg and spoon race. I've got to let go of this, haven't I, really? And then the old three-legged race. That was another one, wasn't it, where you tie your leg next to somebody else. I don't know whether they do that anymore. Health and safety must surely have put a stop to that. There must have been broken legs from one end of the country on sports day when we were kids. And the sack race as well. And I could never decide whether to put my leg on either side and try and walk like that or to do the jumping. I never won the sack race either. And then I was involved in a few parents' races. Put your hand up if you're involved in a parents' race. Or just a few of us. And they are absolutely painful because, of course, by the time you're a parent, you've not run properly for 10 years, and then suddenly you burst into life and you're pulling muscles and the people falling over. There's always somebody that falls over. Your body goes faster than your legs can go. And as I got a bit older, I did a little bit of road running. I did a few 10K runs. Anybody do a few 10K runs? I knew you'd put your hand up, Claire. I did a few of them, and that was good fun. I used to do it with some young people when we did the youth club, and we got them running. And we'd set off with about 30 of them, and 200 yards down the road, we were down to 20, and half a mile down the road, there'd be about 5 of them. But that was good. I managed to encourage quite a few young people to do running, and that was good as well. So, and then I went a little bit further and did a few half marathons. Anybody do a half marathon? And that was good. That was really, really good. I can remember I didn't really understand about training for a half marathon. And this the first half marathon I run. I run on the Sunday before, and I think I must have run about. I think I run about 15 miles. I ran from where did I run from the Bowden Downs Church all the way to Lim Roundabout, and then through to Lim. Then I jumped on the canal, and I ended up in Partington somewhere, and then all the Partington run all the way then back to Broomwood, and I did it without taking a drink at all. I was thirsty at the end. That's a long, long way, but it was cold and it was wet. The rain was absolutely lashing it down. And I got home and had a drink, and then on the actual day of the first half marathon, I felt so good. And I actually had a massage just 5 minutes before the run, and it just, if you've had a massage into your muscles, it's really, really invigorating. It's an amazing thing. And I set off and I saw all these water stations, and I thought, I can do this. And everybody stopped, why are they all drinking water? And then the sun came out, and then it got really hot, and I became dehydrated. And it was absolutely, I managed to do it, but it was hard work. I didn't really realize, the process that you need to do to train for a half marathon. But anyway, that's my story. Now, if I'd run for anything, it's I do a Peter Kay Dad's run. Have you seen that one? Have you? Well, that's the extent of my running at the moment. Anyway, so yes, but tonight's message is about running the race of your life, and of course, the race we're talking about, the race we are talking about today is, as I said, the race of your life. You were born to run this race, and it's part of your destiny. If you're a Christian, God has a race for you to run. And tonight's message is based on two scriptures. The first one is Hebrews 12, 1-2, and it says, Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. You are destined to run a race. You have a race marked out for you. Fixing our eyes upon Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of God. Jesus is called to run a race as well. And the second verse that I'm going to read is from 1 Corinthians, verse 9, chapter 9, verses 24 to 27, which talks about the need for self-discipline. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last. But we, as Christians, do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like somebody running aimlessly. There's a direction you've got to run. There's a target you've got to aim for. And I do not fight like a boxer beating in the air. A boxer wants to land a punch, doesn't he? He doesn't want to fight. I was never a fighter. I didn't know how to fight. When I've got upset, my arms used to wave around like this, you know. Now, and that was beating the air, you know. And the boxer's very measured, isn't he? He draws his fists in and knows when to blow. He says, "No, I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize." Could you imagine? And that's a challenge for preachers, isn't it? You're preaching to others, but by your own actions, you disqualify yourself. That always reminds me, as a preacher, you always feel as if you're encouraging your congregation, you're pointing at the congregation, but somebody once said to me, the finger that points, there are always three fingers pointing back at the preacher themselves, you know. So if I write a message, I always go, "Oh, Lord, what are you trying to tell me?" It should be three times as powerful for the preacher delivering the message, perhaps, as the people who are receiving it. But anyway, as an introduction, the Christian life is described here as a race, not sprint, but a long distance run. It's the race encompassing all of your life. It's not about who starts fastest or who looks the strongest at the beginning. It's about endurance, faithfulness, and finishing well. Both these scriptures invite us to see ourselves actually on the track, surrounded by witnesses, eyes fixed on the finishing line, pressing forward no matter what the cost. And when I saw that, I thought about the track, a circuit track, you know, with all the stands and all those people witnessing what you're doing. Today, I want you to hear again God's call to each one of us to run the race set before us, the race of our life. And make no mistake, your life is not aimless, pointless, and futile. It has meaning, it has purpose, and it has direction. I want to draw out 5 points from today's reading. The first one I want to draw out is the text, "We are surrounded by a great cloud of witness." That's very poetic, isn't it, really? And sometimes you can let that drift past. We're not really realizing what it's about. Hebrews 12 begins by reminding us that we are not running alone. Firstly, can we look at those who've ran before us? Abraham, Moses, David, Peter, Paul, and in the more recent terms, we think of Billy Graham, C.S. Lewis or Charles Spurgeon, and John and Charles Wesley, and countless other faithful believers whose name history hasn't recorded, but heaven knows well and still celebrates today. Their lives testify to this truth. God is faithful. They stumbled and they struggled. And let's be honest, we all stumble and struggle at times. And some of us have had hard falls. I've had hard falls, and we'd be foolish to try and pretend that we haven't. Remember, Paul stumbled and he denied Christ 3 times, didn't he? But that was the same Paul who Jesus called the rock, because he had the revelation, didn't he? And declared that Jesus Christ was the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And upon this rock, revelation, the church was built. And Peter himself played a massive part in building the early church. Remember Billy Graham? We've probably all been to a Billy Graham meeting. Put your hand up if you've been to a Billy Graham meeting. Well, it's a fair number. You've never been to a Billy Graham meeting? That's why you've not put your hand up. Oh, amazing. I've been to a few. I've been to see him on video and I've been to see him in real life. And I've watched him on videos now. It was only a few months ago. What an incredibly powerful preacher. What an incredibly anointed man of God. And he brought over 3 million people to Christ in his live events, which is incredible to think, isn't it, really? And those live events, I believe, have been seen by over 2 billion people. That's incredible, isn't it? But if you read Billy Graham's autobiography, he stumbled. He made lots of mistakes in his life. And he made lots of mistakes when he was talking to the President of the United States and things like that. He compromised the conversation he had with the President of the United States. He also made some anti-Semitic remarks as well during his time. He stumbled, he fell, but God used him. He got up, he had faith, and he trusted in the Lord. Of course, the Weatherly brothers, Charles and John, fought over theology tooth and nail, didn't they, really? But those two were pivotal figures in the development of Christian history. All these who have gone before us kept running the race of their life because they trusted the one that called them. And their witness is there to encourage us. So when you feel weary, remember, we're not the first to feel this way. I heard it said that Christ has experienced every test, every temptation that any of us could ever have had. Others have run the road before us, and their testimony urges you on. Don't quit. Keep going. God will meet you on your way. Hebrews 13:5 says, remember Hebrews 13:5, where God says, I will never leave you or forsake you. Encourage yourself in the Lord. Remember, this is your race of your life. And then look around you here. Your brothers, your sisters in this church, they are witnesses of God's grace and mercy just as much to you as you are to them. This great cloud of witness, we're all part of that, aren't we? Learn to lean on each other. I think we're a church that prays and is considerate and cares for each other. And I think that's something that's really special in this place. But it's good to learn to lean on each other as a witness. As it says in 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 11, encourage one another and build one another up in the Lord, just as you are also doing. We've got to encourage one another and build each other, encourage each other on the race of our life. We all need encouragement to fulfill God's call. And you know what? The race is always on. Psalm 37, verses 23-24 says, the Lord makes firm the steps of one who delights in him. Though he may stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. Firm steps where stumbling happens. Sounds a contradiction to that. You know, it's in the same verse, isn't it, really? But it's not a contradiction. It's life, isn't it? It's life. You know, it happens. We've got to recognize that. Psalm 119 verse 5 said, the word is a light unto my feet, and a light for my feet, and a light on my path. Let's be honest, sometimes the way ahead isn't always clear, is it? It would be nice if we could see days and weeks and months ahead. But if we could, we wouldn't really need much faith, would we, really? We would know what's coming. But the scripture tells us there and highlights there that sometimes the faith is only there just for that next step. And when you're running, you know, that's almost as if you're running blind. I know that those who have suffered grief will know what I'm talking about. Sometimes your prayer is, Lord, just get me through the next hour. Not the next day or the next week or the next month. Just get me through the next hour. And make no mistake, That small request, get me through the next hour, I believe is as powerful a prayer as any other that prays for world peace. Why? Because it's spoke by a person who has an honest relationship with Christ, knowing that God meets you at your point of need without judgment. He meets you at your point of need. And how do I know that? Well, 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 8 says, "And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work." God is interested in giving you everything you need to run the race of your life. Everything. The second point I want to raise is lay aside every weight and sin. That's the text I want to focus on. A runner can't compete while carrying unnecessary baggage. Even good things can become heavy things if they slow you down and compromise our obedience to the Lord. Hebrews tells us to lay aside sin that entangles us and weights that distract us. Sin trips us up. Carrying a weight exhausts us. Both keep us from running freely. Ask yourself, what am I carrying that God never asked me to carry? Sometimes on a spiritual level, it can be bitterness or fear or pride or unforgiveness. And these are distractions that actually drain your spiritual strength. We're called to let them go. Freedom's not found in holding on to those things, but surrendering them to God's will. The third point I want to raise is to run with endurance. And don't compare yourself to others. The race isn't about beating the runner next to you. It's about finishing your race. I just go back to that first half marathon that I did. And towards the end, I was so tired. My muscles were aching like they'd never ached before. And this old guy started running next to me. He must have been about 80, let me tell you. And he was pacing himself next to me. And I felt like death warmed up, honestly. And he was running next, and he was really getting on my nerves. I mean, he was really getting on my nerves, and I couldn't run away from him. I just have the strength. Eventually, I think he got the hint and carried on. But I'll never forget that fella. But I carried on anyway. But I wasn't competing against him, and I don't know whether he was competing against me. You know, I'll run with that 40-year-old guy there. You know, I'm 80, and I'll show him. You know. But there'll always be runners who start late. Remember, we're not competing. Some who run with visible injuries, some who seem faster, some who seem slower. Some are there to test you, as that old fella did with me. But for each one of us running, God has marked a special course, especially for you. Comparing your race with others will steal your joy and drain your strength. We're not all on the same track. The truth is, we're not, as I say, we're not on the same track most of the time. God knows who you are, where you are, and where He wants you to be. Your life journey, your race is unique to you. Yeah, our paths cross. We're here at church, and this is a time when our paths cross. And in our families and through our friendships. But each race in life, each one of our races is unique to us. And that's wonderful, really, that God has laid out a path for you. He's not said, I'll stick 1 million people on this path and 10 million on that one. He says, John, I've got a path that only you can run. And I'll have an impact that only you can have. And Claire and Jackie and Pete and Babs and Tracy, all of us have a unique path to run. And we're called to endure, which means to be faithful, even when progress seems slow. Psalm 46, verse 10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." That race of life you're running will include standing still. It's a strange thing, listening to that still small voice of God and concentrating and contemplating the way forward. It also means being obedient when you're not being cheered on or receiving applause or being congratulated by others around you. It's God we're wanting to please, no one else. Remember in Matthew chapter 25, verse 23, it says, "It was the master who said, 'Well done, my good and faithful servant.'" Those are the words we want to hear, isn't it? Not from our brothers and sisters. It's God we want to hear those words from. And it also means trusting God even when the finish line feels far away. The goal is not speed. The goal is obedience and perseverance. The race of your life lasts a lifetime. The clues in the words. The fourth point I want to bring out is about fixing your eyes upon Jesus. Every runner needs a focal point. Hebrews says, "Fix your eyes upon Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith." Jesus is not only waiting at the finishing line, he runs with us. He endured the cross, despised the shame, and kept going because of the joy that was set before him. When you stumble, look at Jesus. Look to Jesus. When you're tired, look to Jesus. And when you feel like giving up, look to Jesus. He is your strength, your example, and your reward. Isaiah chapter 50, verse 7 puts it like this: "Because the sovereign Lord helps me, I will not be disgraced. Therefore I have set my face like flint, and I know I will not be put to shame." Finally, the fifth point is finish strong. Paul said in 2 Timothy, "I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith." That is the cry of a runner who was given everything. Our prayer should not merely to start well, but to finish well. Still loving God, still serving others, still trusting his promises. One day that race will end, and on that day the applause of heaven will matter far more than the opinions on earth. So in conclusion, church, the race of your life is still on. The track may be long and the road may be hard, but the prize is worth the effort. So lay aside the weight, run with endurance, and fix your eyes upon Jesus. And when your legs feel weak and your heart feels tired, remember this promise. Philippians 1:6 says, "Be confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Jesus Christ." Keep running. You're in the race of your life, a race that brings meaning, purpose, fulfillment, satisfaction, and a prize that's beyond value. Praise God. Thank you.